In 2004, Iranian officials were very confident that the missile factory they built inside Syria, which would supply weapons to Hezbollah members in Lebanon, would be a success because it was buried under a mountain that no Israeli bomb could penetrate. But unknown to them, Israel had no plans to destroy the underground facility from the air using bombs. Instead, they would send their most elite commandos to infiltrate the missile factory and blow it up from the inside. These are the events behind the daring Operation Manyways, which has been hailed as one of the most brutal and successful missions of Israeli commandos in the history of the Israeli military. Mr.
Good vibes!
While the world was focused on the war in Gaza and the rockets being launched by Hezbollah into Israel, in September of that year, a secret strategy by Iran was nearing the finish line. The plan was to manufacture missiles inside Syria near Lebanon and provide Hezbollah with a continuous supply of weapons that would be difficult for Israel to intercept. The center of this plan was hidden inside a mountain. It wasn't just a simple warehouse, nor was it just a hiding place for missiles. It was a full-scale factory capable of producing 100 to 300 missiles each year, according to estimates by the Israeli military. This facility was called Deep Layer. It is located near the town of Masyaf in northwestern Syria, more than 200 kilometers from Israel. It is buried up to 130 meters underground and beneath rock, as if Iran built a factory under a 40-story building and then covered it with a mountain. That is its defense. Even if it is bombarded from the air, there is no guarantee that the machines deep inside will be hit. It's possible that only the entrance would collapse while the production line underneath remains intact. And that design is no accident. In 2017, Israel destroyed an above-ground facility that manufactured rocket engines. So Iran changed its strategy since facilities above ground are easy targets. Why not bury the next one underground? The intention is simple and clear. Bring the factory closer to its intended recipient, Hezbollah in Lebanon. Before, missiles and parts had to be exported from Iran, passed through Syria, and then delivered to Lebanon using trucks. The journey was long, with many checkpoints, and there were many chances for the Israeli Air Force to spot and bomb the cargo. But once the deep layer is operational, the missiles will be made inside Syria itself, just a few hours away from the Hezbollah stronghold. It's like before, you had to order from a distant province, but now there's a factory just in the next neighborhood. By 2021, the main digging was finished, and Iran started bringing in the machines one after another. The inside of the facility is shaped like a horseshoe, with 3 entrances for raw materials, finished missiles, and personnel. Along the tunnel, there are at least 16 rooms. There's a workshop for missile bodies, rocket engine equipment, a paint room, and large mixers for solid fuel. From the beginning, 2 test missiles have already been successfully made. Rocket engines are now being produced in bulk. This means it's no longer just on paper. With just a little more effort, the whole factory will be up and running. If that happens, Hezbollah could have a continuous supply of many missiles, including precision-guided weapons designed to hit exact targets. For Israel, time is the enemy. Their intelligence agency, Mossad, has been monitoring the deep layer for a long time. They know the layout of the tunnels, the locations of the entrances, and the machines that need to be destroyed. But there's a big problem. The factory is too deep to be destroyed by an ordinary airstrike. And once it becomes fully operational, there will be more guards, personnel, and missiles inside. That's why they need to act before the opportunity closes. Because of this, Israel came up with a plan where a single wrong move could lead to a massive disaster. They won't bomb the mountain. They will fly commandos into Syria. They will land near the facility. They will open the thick steel doors. They'll go underground and blow up the factory from the inside. There's no easy way out, no safe hiding place. If the radar spots their helicopters, the mission might be over before they even land. Night of September 8, 2024. At an airbase in Israel, 120 soldiers boarded 4 CH-53 Yasur, large transport helicopters that are like buses with rotors. 100 of them are from the Sheldog unit, the elite commando unit of the Israeli Air Force. They are the ones who will enter the factory. The remaining 20 are from Unit 669 specialists trained to rescue and treat the wounded in the middle of battle. No one expects a simple landing, and the same goes for returning home. Unit 669 is bringing enough medical equipment to set up a temporary hospital. If someone gets hit inside Syria and they have to treat them there, the entire force cannot withdraw until the mission is complete. Along with the 4 transport helicopters, there are 2 attack helicopters for close air support. In the air, there are 21 fighter jets, 5 drones, and 14 surveillance aircraft on standby. There are 30 more planes in Israel ready to respond if the plan fails. That's a large force, but they can't all enter at the same time. If they're detected by Syrian radar, missiles could intercept the helicopters before the Commandos even land. So instead of heading straight to Syria, the 6 helicopters first flew over the Mediterranean Sea, far from the coast of Lebanon. From there, they then turned toward the coast of Syria. As they reached land, they flew just above the terrain. They were flying very low to avoid radar. In the darkness, there were no lights that could give away their position. One wrong altitude, and the air defense system could spot them. One wrong descent, and they could crash into a hill or a power line. And Mashiaf is no ordinary place. At that time, it had the second densest air defense network in all of Syria, second only to Damascus. Dozens of radars and missile systems surrounded the region. There was another dangerous neighbor, Russia. They had forces, and Russia had its own air defense system on the Syrian coast. So it wasn't just Assad's soldiers that needed to be avoided. If someone misread their entry, the incident could escalate in a way that no one could control. As the helicopters approached, the deception began. Israeli fighter jets, drones, and missile boats attacked various targets in Syria simultaneously. What they wanted to show was that this was just a normal airstrike, like the hundreds of attacks the Syrian military had already seen. While the radar operators were focused on the fighter jets, helicopters carrying 120 soldiers were secretly flying low beneath them. There were also attacks carried out to draw the Syrian forces away from the facility. Several routes and locations that Syrian reinforcements might use were bombed. The enemy needed to be confused, their movements cut off, and every minute that the Commandos would need had to be bought. It was an 18-minute flight from the coast to the deep layer. 18 minutes where no one could make a mistake. They were not Upon arriving near the facility, the first Yasur helicopter landed first and deployed the Commandos near the main entrance. At the same time, 2 helicopters landed at other positions overlooking the research center. The 4th transport helicopter stayed back for the moment. After a few minutes, it then approached and deployed additional forces. Afterwards, the 4 Yasur helicopters flew away and hid in separate locations. They would wait there for more than 2 hours. There was no helicopter standing by next to the Commandos. There would be no quick escape if the enemy suddenly increased in number. On the ground, the Sheldog Commandos immediately split up. One group took the high ground and launched a small drone. The others started to guard the perimeter. The assault team went straight to the entrance and confronted 2 guards. Gunfire broke out, and from a distance, dozens of Syrian soldiers were moving toward them. The assault team quickly took down the 2 guards at the entrance, but that didn't mean the area was clear. On the higher part of the mountain, a Sheldog team was observing the surroundings using a small drone. On their screen, they could see movements on the roads and in the dark areas of the research center. They were the eyes of the entire force, and they would also stop anyone who tried to approach. Outside, the perimeter team set up the defenses. Half of the Commandos were facing away from the factory, guarding every possible route the Syrian soldiers could take. The other half faced the first major problem of the mission, a thick and heavy steel door. Every night, the staff closed the 3 entrances to the deep layer. Since the factory wasn't fully operational yet, there were fewer guards than usual and no workers inside. That was good news. The bad news was the doors were made so they couldn't be easily opened, not even by blasting them. but the Israeli commandos were prepared for all sorts of problems. They trained for 2 months using models of the facility. They repeatedly practiced landing, entering, planting bombs, and evacuating. But the training ground is different from the real situation in Syria. There, every wasted minute gives the enemy more time. The assault team tried to enter through the logistics entrance, the door leading to the offices, and connected to the production area. They used special equipment to force it open. The door wouldn't budge. 10 minutes passed, then 20, then 30. While they were struggling with the steel, the surveillance team continued to spot moving forces around. There were Syrian soldiers approaching the research center. In the air, Israeli fighter jets and drones continued attacking roads and positions that could be used by reinforcements. They couldn't allow a large force to reach the mountain. If the commandos got surrounded, they wouldn't have a helicopter to board right away. The Yasur helicopters were still hidden far away. Unit 6-9 was waiting inside these helicopters, along with stretchers, medicine, and equipment to set up a temporary hospital. But the order was clear. Even if someone got hurt, they wouldn't leave until the factory was destroyed. 40 minutes have passed and the door is still closed. In missions like this, bullets aren't the only enemy. Time is too. Noise, exhaustion, and the fear that the information they have might be wrong. What if the steel is thicker than they expected? What if they can't open it? What if the entire operation stops right at the door? After almost 50 minutes, the logistics entrance finally gave way. Using specialized tools, the first group entered the dark part of the facility. From the offices, they quickly moved toward the 2 main entrances of the production line. But those were also locked. That's when one of the most impressive details of their preparation came into play. Israeli intelligence knew that there were forklifts inside the facility. So before the mission, some commandos were trained and certified to operate a forklift. In the middle of the raid, under the enemy's mountain, they operated the machines that belonged to Iran itself. The machine roared as the forklift pushed the heavy barriers. The 2 doors slowly opened. At the same time, the explosives arrived. The team brought approximately 300 kilos of explosives. They also brought a quad bike from the helicopter to quickly deliver the bombs inside. In front of them, the horseshoe-shaped tunnel was already open, with 16 rooms, dozens of machines, and the entire missile production line of Iran. Now they need to blow everything up before the Syrian army gets any closer. 50 commandos entered the production tunnel. Outside, 50 soldiers were left to guard the area and prevent the Syrian soldiers from getting close. Their world was divided. Inside, they were racing against time. Outside, they were fighting against the approaching enemy. The explosives team advanced on a quad bike. They were carrying about 300 kilos of explosives, enough to destroy the vital machines. But it had to be placed in the exact position. They couldn't just leave the bombs in the middle of the tunnel. They had to destroy the very heart of the factory. One by one, the commandos entered no less than 16 production rooms, where they saw the parts used to make missile bodies, rocket engines, and other equipment for the assembly line. But there were 3 machines that were the most important targets: the large planetary mixers used to make solid rocket fuel. If only the missile body is destroyed, it can be replaced. If only the wall collapses, they can dig again. But if the mixers and the entire production line are destroyed, operations can't be restored easily. That's why they put bombs on every critical machine. They move quickly. The deeper they go into the facility, the longer the route back gets. If a bomb goes off early, the very tunnel they entered will become their grave. Outside, the surveillance team continues to track the movement of people and vehicles. There are Syrian forces trying to approach from different directions. Their location is immediately relayed to the aircraft above. There are consecutive explosions around Masyaf. Roads, positions, and routes that could be used by reinforcements are being hit. Throughout the raid, 49 munitions were used by the Israeli aircraft to prevent the Syrian soldiers from getting close. But airstrikes can't stop everything forever. Every bomb outside is a reminder to the commandos inside that their time is running out. While the last explosive charges were being set, another team searched the facility for documents. They obtained intelligence material which, according to the Israeli military, showed that the deep layer was almost ready to be fully operational. They didn't just find plans, the machines were already there, the parts were there, and test missiles had already been made. Just one more step, and this would become a real supply line for Hezbollah. The explosives team connected all the charges to a remote detonator placed near the entrance. With just one press, the entire production line would be destroyed all at once. But they can't press it yet. All 50 commandos need to get out from under the mountain first. After that, they need to regroup at the landing zone while the Syrian forces are closing in. The whole team withdrew, one by one. They came from below carrying the documents they recovered but leaving behind the quad bike and some equipment. Over the radio, the long-awaited message arrived. The helicopters were on their way back. One by one, the commandos emerged from the deep layer. Behind them, nearly 300 kilos of explosives were already attached to the machines. Everything was connected to the remote detonator held by the chief explosive specialist of Shaldag. Just one press, but they needed to reach the landing zone first. All 100 Shaldag commandos quickly gathered. In the air, Israeli aircraft continued their attacks to prevent Syrian reinforcements. After 2.5 hours on the ground, they heard the sound of rotors. 4 Yassur helicopters had arrived from their hiding places. Inside the helicopters, 20 members of Unit 669 were on alert, carrying medicine, stretchers, and emergency equipment for possible casualties. But no one needed even a single stretcher. None of the soldiers were injured throughout the entire operation. The commandos quickly boarded, leaving behind some equipment they could no longer carry. Those things weren't important. What mattered was that all personnel were accounted for, and everyone had made it out of the mountain. As the helicopters ascended, the explosive specialist kept his eyes on the entrance to the deep layer. Then, he pressed the detonator. The charges inside exploded all at once. Because the rocket fuel stored in the facility contained explosive materials, the strength of the explosion was estimated to be equivalent to 1 ton of explosives. The commandos didn't just see it, they felt it. According to the soldiers, it was like a small earthquake. The mountain shook as Iran's production line beneath it collapsed. There was no time to see the result. The helicopters headed straight back to the coast. They flew over the Mediterranean and then returned home to Israel. After almost an hour, hundreds of Syrian soldiers arrived at the facility. But they were too late. According to the IDF, approximately 30 Syrian guards and soldiers were killed during the entire operation. However, Syrian media reported a lower number, 14 dead and 43 wounded. But what is clear is that the deep layer was never used as a missile factory again after that. The documents recovered inside, according to Israel, confirmed that it was indeed close to becoming operational. Eventually, after Assad's regime fell, Iranian forces also withdrew from Syria. Israel called the raid Operation Many Ways, a code name they did not explain to the public. That night, it wasn't just one factory that was buried by the explosion. Along with it collapsed Iran's 7-year plan to turn a mountain in Syria into a missile assembly line. Iran thought 130 meters was enough of rock and soil to make the deep layer untouchable. They were wrong because if bombs couldn't get in, Israeli soldiers went inside instead. And when the sun rose, the mountain was still standing, but the factory hidden beneath it was destroyed. If you like this video, please share it with others and subscribe as well. Also, watch the videos on the right so you can waste even more of your time.